Hi everybody, welcome to Saturday Live at the Backyard Bird Center. Today's topic comes from several requests, and that is, the questions about attracting birds to the backyard, because this is the start of the bird feeding season. We've talked about that over the last couple of weeks, but the birds have really started to come in now. It's mid-November, and this is the kickoff of it. And I've done lots of videos over time about probably more detailed versions of different topics I'm going to cover today, but this is a overview, Mark's Guide to Attracting Birds to Your Backyard. It really does start simply with food, water, and shelter. And this is a really good picture of Carrie's backyard. So we have some bird feeders hanging there, which of course represents the food. She's got a bird bath right here, a heated bird bath on her deck, right in the foreground with a cardinal on it. And then she has a nice brush pile right back there that provides the cover. So shelter, food, water, and shelter. So that's the start and the basis of everything I'm talking about today. Now, of those three things, of food, water, and shelter, if I were doing a class, I'd ask you which one do you think is the most important. It's also the most overlooked. And if you answered water, you would be correct. Water is the most important thing you can provide for birds. You will attract lots of different birds with water, not just the seed-eating birds. You'll also get the fruit-eating birds and the birds that overwinter here, and in migration, you get migrating birds through here that are insect eaters will drink your water. Birds need water, unfrozen water. I've talked about it so much. This is a great example of a Harris sparrow on a heated bird bath. You see the snow and ice around the rim of it, but the water is open. Critical for bird survival here. So water is where I like to start when I talk about attracting birds to your yard. If you don't do anything else, providing a clean, dependable source of unfrozen water is essential. All right. Water. Then I'd like to move to shelter, because with shelter, remember, shelter can mean a lot whenever you think about it. I think when most people think of providing shelter, they think about providing a birdhouse. Give you this one. Think of it as all parts of it. Your backyard looks different from Carrie's backyard, which looks different from my backyard. It looks for every. So think about what your backyard looks like and what kind of shelter you're providing by not cutting down dead trees. This is a white-breasted nuthatch nest in a hollow dead tree. Some people will, as soon as a tree dies, they go and cut it down and haul it off or burn it or whatever. Leaving a dead tree standing for a long time is very helpful for birds. That is where they drill their natural cavities. The insects that attack that wood, that dying wood, the birds eat on that. So that's a source of food. So shelters can be the hollow trees. It can be a bird house that you put up. They roost in those in winter. It can be a roosting pocket, which is just a place for them to get in and sleep at night. But also, the one thing that a lot of people forget, and this was critical in my yard, when I moved into my yard, the previous owners had cleared out all under the trees in my backyard. There was no underbrush at all. And I hardly had any cardinals whenever I first started feeding birds in my yard. And one of the first things I did was I built a brush pile in the backyard. And that's what we showed there early. This is, I'm sorry for the quality of the picture. We converted it and it didn't work as well. But this is an artificial structure. This is a brush pile that was constructed by Carrie in her backyard. And what this does is this gives birds confidence, and obviously you can see it's a very open yard. Well, birds don't like crossing over those open spaces to feed. They feel vulnerable. Cooper's hawks, cats, natural predators. It's very dangerous. So an escape cover like this, that is critical for the bird's confidence. And placing your bird feeders near that cover gives them even more confidence. Same thing for your bird bath. I have people who buy bird baths and say, well, my birds don't come to it as often. Well, if it's out in the middle of the open where they feel vulnerable, that doesn't work as well as if placing it really close to cover. So, that's quite often the most overlooked piece whenever people think about feeding birds, and that is proximity to cover, providing cover. We're coming up on the holiday season. Old Christmas trees are wonderful for brush piles. You know, adding your Christmas tree to this, tying it to it with those evergreens, it gives an even thicker escape cover would be a good idea for, you know, providing a brush pile. So I want you to really think about that. Now, food is by far the most complex part of attracting birds to your backyard. And one of the things that is, again, when people think of food, I love it that you think of bird feeders, but think about your landscaping, because providing berry producing plants and trees, shrubs in your yard is a natural way to feed birds. And this year we have so many berries. It's really heavy fruit year this year. That's why the bird feeders have been so slow in September and October, because there's so much of this. This is cedar waxwing eating this berry. And then we've got another picture here of a red-eyed vireo in migration eating a dogwood berry. You're providing food for birds. So landscaping is a key part to attracting birds to your backyard, especially a lot of different birds. So you won't ever see this red-eyed vireo on your feeder cracking open a sunflower seed. He doesn't do that. But you'll see him visiting your water, and you can see him eating off the shrubbery and the berries in your yard. So think about your landscaping and think about native shrubs and trees that produce natural food for birds. So that's the first thing. But when we talk about bird feeding, let's see, this is a great picture here. Again, Carrie's yard. And when I talk about bird feeding, I think I talk about two things, and that is the type of seeds to feed and how to present the seed. Because not all birds like the same seed, and not all birds like to feed the same way. So you need to address all of those needs. And Carrie's done a good job of this here. She has an open tray here with safflower in it. So the open tray is great for larger birds, like the cardinals especially, are ground feeders, and they like their feed on flat surfaces. So a tray feeder is also great. Well, this tray on this feeder here would also act really well for the cardinals and larger birds. You know, the feed on those gives them access. And it has perches on this feeders, and then this spiral here provides perches for smaller birds like goldfinches and chickadees. Some birds really like those perches, like to hang upside down on these perches and things like that. So a perch feeder or two is a good addition to it. And also she has the clingers addressed. Those birds that like to cling to the side of the tree and cling to limbs, like the peanut feeder here gives a great place to cling on to. And she has a suet feeder over here too. So you got the clingers addressed, you got the perchers, and you got the flat feeders. So that's a really good appeal to a lot of different kind of birds. And that's most people's goal, is to attract as many different kind of birds that as you can to your yard. Let's see, let's get back to here. And more detail. I love the comparison here. This is a winter goldfinch on a spiral to be able to reach forward and get the black tie out of there, the finch seed out of there. But it also appeals to much larger birds, like this silly flicker who's hanging upside down, but he's darting his tongue in and out of that little tiny hole that's really meant for the finches with their little small beak to get there and pull it out. But he should have found a way around that. He likes those sunflower chips in there eating on there. So if you address different methods and different seeds, you'll attract a lot of different kind of birds. Now the seeds. I don't like this picture because it's a little blurry. I didn't like that. But this is black oil sunflower seed, and it is the single most widely accepted bird seed out there. If you only feed one kind of seed, make it black oil sunflower. It's got a soft seed coat so the goldfinches and small birds can crack it open. Cardinals love it. More birds love black oil sunflower than any other kind of seed. Now, what you want to avoid, of course, is attracting the non-desirables. I had to search my words there real quick, because bird seed is divided into two major kinds. We have seeds, sunflower seeds, safflower seeds, and peanuts, but we also have grains. And grain, my rule of thumb has been, thou shalt not mix grains and seeds together in my quality seed mixes. And when I talk about grains, I'm talking primarily about millet. This is my ground throw mix, which is mostly millet. And the reason I have this is so I developed it to take care of some of our favorite birds, the juncos. Now, they're ground feeders. They want to feed, and while we like flat surfaces, to feed birds on, we forget about the ground. The ground is a bird feeder. You throw seed right on it, and the juncos absolutely love it. Now, one alternative to that, let's see, where's your tray? I don't see it. Maybe you can see it from this picture. Let's do this one. If you can see right here, down here, there's a covered ground tray in the brush pile. And this is help get the seed up off of the ground, like the ground throw in there, but it keeps it drier. And it also has good drainage. And this one has a roof on it, so it keeps that millet dry for the ground feeders like the juncos. Now, I'll also throw some sunflower and safflower in there because cardinals love to feed off the ground and mourning doves and other birds too. But primarily, I came up with ground throw for the juncos. I could have easily called that junco mix for me because that's why I did it. But the other native sparrows, white-throated sparrows, white-crowned sparrows, you need to take care of them. But don't get trapped into buying those cheap birdseed mixes that are filled with mostly all the grains of milo, cracked corn, wheat, oats, all of those junk fillers that really so far down on taste preferences for birds that they are cheap, and you put it, you think you're getting a deal on this cheap bag of birdseed. Well, you get what you pay for there, and you start attracting all the blackbirds, the starlings, and red-winged blackbirds, the grackle, things like that, and you don't want that. They're bullies. If you want to attract the greatest variety of birds, and especially the pretty birds, then you want to stick with the good quality seeds in your feeders, the sunflower seeds, safflower, and peanuts, and then on the ground, stick with millet. I mean, it's a good thing. You want to mix in some sunflower and things like that, but stay away from the junk fillers. Now, one quick one, and we do a whole other video on this too, of course, and that is if you're wanting to attract a wide variety of birds. Carrie didn't want me to show this picture, but I did anyways, because before I switch to that, I want to show you how, because people ask, well, how far does your brush pile need to be from your feeders, and she's showing the distance here. You don't want it too far because it takes away their confidence. So you want those feeders within 10 feet or so, or 12 feet maybe, because you don't want it so close that a squirrel can jump across off the top of the brush pile onto your limbs, but you've got to make sure that your baffles still work against your squirrels. But that's a good slide to show you how far you want those to be. All right, let me go back to here. Then we're covered our different bird seeds, but I didn't talk about hulless because people say, oh, that sunflower seed's so messy. So I wanted to quickly address that. And that is hulless sunflower. They've already taken the hull off the seed, and so it's going to cost you a little bit more. But if you're one that doesn't like a lot of mess, a lot of germination, this is, we say, the boneless, skinless chicken, which is kind of bad. But it is the waste-free, and the birds love it. And so hulless sunflower in the fine size, the medium hulls, or the whole hearts, they're a clean way to feed and attract a lot of different birds. So food, water, shelter, those are the important things when it comes to attracting birds in your yard. And like I said, almost on all these topics, I've got whole videos on nothing but them. So thanks for the idea for the program. Please send in more ideas. Give us a like, give us a share. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Until then, come on, let's talk birds.